Hello, if you're watching this, this is about the LASIK eye treatment. As you can see here, ooh, we've still got the scar, the bruising, and here, there we go. So I originally, I'll give, this will be really brief, but I'll give you some important notes. People that are like thinking about doing it and maybe a bit apprehensive and wondering just generally what the structure, the routine of that day is going to look like. I wanted to make this a few days ago, so generally um, everything's been okay. I got my treatment here in Kazakhstan at one of the best clinics. Um, I paid for a LASIK-Custom because originally I wanted to get the best laser treatment available, which was called the Smile Pro. So there's a Smile and there's a Smile Pro. I think the difference is very nominal in price. Um, the Smile Pro in Kazakh tenge would be 800,000, which converts to 1,250 GBP. Um, the dollar on that is going to be about, I don't know, is that 1,500, $1,600? So a very reasonable price for the highest laser treatment that you can get really on the market. However, because I have or had, maybe have, a problematic stigmatism in one eye in particular, this one, they said I couldn't have the Smile Pro treatment. So instead, I had to get a LASIK. LASIK is basically like the basic laser surgery that's been around for a while. It's older technology, and the difference between the two fundamentally is that Smile Pro, the highest one, doesn't require any incision, any surgical incision whatsoever. So it's just a laser that takes 9 seconds and then it's over. Whereas the LASIK, what they do is they cut a flap. So they do a surgical procedure manually. So you are obviously putting your hands in the in the abilities of the surgeon. They cut a flap over your cornea, I believe, something like that. And then after that, they do some laser. Um, my one is different to the basic LASIK, which would have come in at 400,000 tenge, so half the price of the better one. So I paid 670,000 because apparently I needed a custom. I still don't know what that is because no one really spoke English, which is a major problem. And some people might be thinking, duh, but it's a problem for different reasons. And this is why I just want to give a basic kind of overview for the prospective kind of medical tourist, because there are some things that, in hindsight, were potentially problematic. And I don't know whether it's going to be a problem for me because it takes 3 months to heal. And immediately I noticed the difference between both eyes. I've always had a problem with the left eye, and the left eye was basically, it looked like nothing had changed within like 48 hours, whereas the right eye almost instantaneously was pretty on point. It was pretty good, pretty solid and sharp. So essentially, the treatment involves, and I guess it's the same for any major clinic. You go along with your passport, and they're all private. So, you go along with your passport, and then you have to have a consultation, which isn't included in the price, by the way, I should add. So the consultation was Kazakh tenge 22,000, although it ranges at the top clinics between 18 and 22,000, which converts into GBP. It's like £35, $60, right? And they have like a ton of different machines I've never ever seen. I think there was like four or five that you wouldn't find at a regular opticians during just a kind of basic sight test, or even sort of a more expansive one. These machines are really sort of high end. And then they do the sort of routine things that you'd expect in opticians, where you read the kind of letters or numbers off a board, and they test your sight. And then that goes to the surgeon, who will then decide what treatment is best for you. And then that will be used to create your correction, right? Now, in hindsight, the most unprofessional part of the entire routine for me at this surgery was the team responsible for conducting the preliminary and arguably the most important part of the operation, which is, my sight, a basic sight test, because they couldn't. understand English. And I think part of it was they are employed because they should, and they're sort of there with instructions to sort of deal with foreigners because they're supposed to have a certain aptitude, these particular staff members, for the English language, but either they haven't practiced since they were employed or they just lied on their resume and no one really checked because they really can speak any English at all. And this is kind of a high end clinic as well in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, so you would expect someone to be able to properly speak English. Amongst all the staff, there was sort of an understanding where they all kind of chipped in to comprehend what was happening and translate, except the receptionist, who was genuinely very, very competent in English, but she wasn't there for the site tests. And sort of what I thought at the end was after the surgery, if they had made a mistake, which I sort of think they might have done, this is going to be what's corrected on my vision. Um, so I'm not. I'm very apprehensive of whether or not it's going to be corrected, especially on the left eye after the recovery weeks and months. Um, but yeah, let me take you back to the beginning. So after you've had that kind of consultation, which involves going through all these various tests, you then go to the surgeon. The surgeon says, "Well, actually, you can't have the Smile Pro, as he said to me, because your astigmatism is too problematic. So these are what are available to you." Unfortunately, because it's a moneyed enterprise, these businesses aren't very transparent because they just want your cash at the end of the day. So, first thing, the date we had already arranged for my surgery with the Smile Pro was to be 2 days after the consultation, and it was essential because I was leaving the country. I'm literally filming this from the train station on the Chinese border now. However, apparently, after they changed my type of surgery to the LASIK, that date wasn't available because it was just for Smile Pro patients. So they sort of said, well, we'll make an exception for you if we can film your entire routine, upload it to like Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm here now. However, they weren't particularly transparent with things like informing me that in the future I'm now completely unable to have this Smile Pro or an associated form of that laser surgery because now they've made a manual incision on my corneas, and because of that I'm now excluded from other forms of laser surgery even though I can have updates with LASIK, which is older technology. I am ineligible for the other ones, which if I had known beforehand I probably wouldn't have got it. So that just shows why it's important for them not to be transparent because they sort of know that people are going to be swayed from not having the surgery and they're not going to make that money. Um, and they're making a lot of money, by the way. I actually asked, how many patients do you have? And it was a pretty broad number, but he said 3 to 20 a day. Well, if you include the consultation, and there's also a few little other scams as well, like you have to have a mandatory AIDS test, a syphilis test, which is another 20 quid, $30. So when you add it all together, it comes in at about $1,700, right, per person. And the Smile Pro takes 9 seconds, and my custom surgery took 2 minutes in total, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, they can. They said peak season, it's sort of summertime. They're doing about 20 a day, and then winter it's about 3 a day. So yeah, we can just take the mean on that. But it's a lot of money. Obviously, the equipment cost a lot. Like the Smile Pro machine, from my understanding, is £500,000, and the actual clinic, as you would expect, was very high grade. I was very impressed with the clinic aesthetically. The surgical operating room, everything was really, really good in terms of that. So yeah, it was decent, but because of this stupid Instagram thing, they actually mic'd me up in the surgery, and I didn't really. No one told me exactly the extent to which they'd be filming and like uploading stuff, but it was post surgery when you're supposed to obviously cover your eyes because they're super sensitive with shades, and from there on return home and essentially sleep. Instead of that, they wanted me to do it like a scripted Instagram. Well, my eyes were literally throbbing in pain. I couldn't open them properly, like see the light, and they were basically forcing me to do this like little sort of like, how was your surgery, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that shows the level of care for the patient that they actually have, which is really it's all a fad, which I know. I know this. I'm not ignorant of this, which is why I put a lot of time into looking for the best surgery. I was also insistent. This might sound a bit prejudiced to some people, but I really wanted like a Russian surgeon. The Soviet sort of system is quite renowned globally, the medical system and examinations and actually just tertiary education in general during the Soviet period. And so I either wanted like an older surgeon or generally I wanted a Russian surgeon. And that's why I picked this particular one. There are three in Kazakhstan. There's the IMAX, there's, I think it's called Astana actually, the other one, which is the biggest one, which has literally surgeries everywhere. IMAX just has a clinic in Astana. And then there is another one that begins with R. However, I contacted the other two, and they don't have Smile Pro, but they had like it's almost like Ford versus GM in the car world. In the laser surgery world, the two highest types of laser surgery at the moment for the general consumer are Smile Pro and then this other one, and it's basically just two companies that produce the lasers. So it's just a difference in branding, and the other company didn't have the Smile Pro. Um, but basically, I was trying to ask them whether or not they did or didn't on WhatsApp. They're very responsive, all three clinics with an English speaking customer service. And they just literally point blank refused to answer my questions, which I reiterated over and over again. Like, yeah, so do you have this or not? And they never want to say no because they know it's a deterrent. Like, they want to, there is a huge amount of trickery in, obviously, the medical sector as a whole is absolutely just full of devil worshippers. The pharmaceutical sector is absolute poison, and anyone that works in private healthcare for the most part is a scumbag, as far as I'm concerned. And they do really not care about patients. It's just about the capital gain at the end of the day. However, you have to take these things into account in the real world and try and do your best to work around that and find who is the most competent and moralistic. And so that's sort of what I did, and ended up with this particular clinic. And then I went to them, and this is what happened. And wasn't impressed with the social media side. Wasn't impressed with the transparency. Even crazier, you have to sign these contracts, which are basically going to be waivers. Probably the surgery has no liability should X, Y, and Z happen. It was all in Russian, so I couldn't read it. Then they have the signature, which you have to do. They didn't have a digital signature or a physical signature. They have this WhatsApp signature where you just put your number in and a code appears, and that code is your signature. But the craziest part of this is obviously I couldn't read it pre-surgery because it's in Russian. And pre-surgery, a woman actually did it for me, so I never actually signed the contract because she was doing it on my phone. And then when I came out post-surgery, they make you sign another one, but you can't see at all. You can't read. You can't anyone, irrespective if they speak Russian or Kazakh. So no one can read the contract that you have to sign before you leave the surgery. So that was a total fucking scam as well. Like if that was in the US, they'd be getting sued to the fucking brim. Like, having someone else sign your contract that you can't even read in the first place, A, because you don't speak the language, and B, because you literally can't read it because your eyes are just recovering, having just had surgery a few minutes beforehand. So that was all very bizarre. And then included in this obviously 1700 is another consultation at any point within 3 months post op. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that because I'm kind of heading into another part of the world, but um, yeah, sort of my take on it is to sort of wrap up and conclude for the prospective patient. Really, obviously, it sounds basic, but make sure that you go to somewhere which has standards. And I had an option to go to countries where the price is even cheaper. And to give you an idea, the Smile Pro treatment is between 4 and 6 grand in the UK. So that's the treatment that would be 1,300. And I just paid £1,050 for a treatment that would be about £2,500 to £4,000 in the UK, the LASIK. But I had a custom actually, so it'd probably be way more in the UK. So yeah, it's cheaper Kazakhstan, but you can go even cheaper. I mean, I think China. Actually, no, China's not less, but Indonesia would be less, and Uzbekistan nearby would be less. But having people that are competent and understanding, even at a kind of nominal basic level, where medical practitioners are best. For instance, I already knew that the Soviet system was really, really good for medicine. And so if someone grew up having studied, in the 90s or 80s or whatever, in a Soviet institution and studying medicine, it's really high end. And that's sort of what I was looking for. And I have no qualms with the surgeon at all. That all seemed to be pretty good. Um, so yeah, that's the general gist. They say for the Smile Pro, which is what I didn't get but wanted, that you can exercise the next day almost immediately. That's the 9-second laser treatment. You don't have to cover your eyes unless there's sensitivity. For me, it's you have to have eye drops, antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, and a sort of hydration drop um, every 2 hours for the first 24 hours, every 3 times a day for the following 5 days, and then the hydration drops are the only ones that are required, but every day for a month, multiple times a day for a month when your eyes dry out. And that's the thing, like in the first 24 hours, my eyes weren't dry at all. Which is one of the things that comes up most often when you kind of Google the side effects of this treatment. But I've always had a problem with this eye, and it's always been slightly dry anyway. But you notice it's really dry, like crazy. It's like Sahara Desert eyes. And hopefully that's going to sort of change as the 3 months progress. But yeah, reverting back to what I said about the preliminary consultations done by the opticians and the language barrier and their sort of desire to, I feel like, make out that your vision is worse than it actually is so that the results seem better. Also, it transpired that they were faking. This is where it gets really bad. Post operation, I had to then have a few more tests so they can see what the difference immediately would be between what my vision had been and what it now was, even though there is the 3 month recovery time. I literally couldn't read anything on my left eye. The right eye was fine. And what they did is because you have pattern recognition, of course, all people have pattern recognition. If you have your series of numbers in larger font and then they get progressively smaller, the standard tests that you have, what they did was they had the same sequence of numbers for each different font size. So then your brain obviously recognizes the pattern, the shapes. So then you say, like, oh, I mean, I can read it, I know what it is, but I can't read it, you know what I mean? Like, if you gave me a fresh set of numbers, I wouldn't be able to read that. I only know what they are because I can see that the shapes are shared with the font above. And I feel like they use that to pretend that my left eye was better than it was. And this is substantiated factually because at the end she said in English, "Oh, your eyes are almost the same." And I was like, "No, they're not, like, at all. I literally, like, the difference is massive. Like, this one was almost the same, if not worse, than what it was before the treatment. This one was good." So yeah, again, you just got to be so careful with these clinics. I feel like I was sort of sucked in with the competence that I feel like I have and the awareness for being taken advantage of. You still get drawn into the fact that, oh, they're medical practitioners, they care, and you really need to remember they don't care about you at all. They just want your money. Um, so yeah, that the overall conclusion is the left eye is still really sensitive, and it doesn't. It's definitely nowhere near even good yet. But again, it's only been like 4 days. But one thing that is noticeable is, obviously I'm like talking now, and I'm having to obviously take breaks when I'm reading on my Kindle and my phone and stuff because I'm noticing the difference as the eyes adjust. It's just like wearing new glasses. You would expect to have sort of straining, that feeling of straining, and um, you know even headaches. But this is the thing: I haven't actually had any headaches at all, which is pretty impressive and amazing because honestly, I've been using my phone pretty much constantly, even though that's not 100% recommended. And even if I wasn't using my phone, just being about with fresh glasses on a new prescription, you would feel the strain, you would feel the headache. That's always been the case, but I haven't had anything yet. Um, and yes, it is noticeably better as a whole. And especially for people that don't really have big problems like astigmatism and any sort of eye issues, I would just go for it. Like honestly, it just when you calculate the value, if you're paying say £1,000, $1,300, $1,400 for the consultation, say $1,500, glasses in the UK are actually really, really cheap. In most countries in the world, they're not, like the US. And I lose so many glasses each and every year. Like it's ridiculous that you pay off at least 2 years worth of glasses with an operation. It's just sorry, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, 2 years worth of lost glasses equate to a lifetime operation. So yeah, there's obviously going to be an anxiety because it's your eyes, and you think like, oh, what if you go blind? Apparently, and again, this is just data that I'm getting off the internet. You've got a 1 in 5 million chance of going blind, and no one has been recorded as going blind from Smile Pro yet. And according to the surgeon, no one has ever gone blind. Um, and yeah, you've got two eyes at the end of the day. So I don't think you could ever properly go blind. Apparently, you can't. You could have it could go wrong where it hasn't corrected your vision. And if someone's got like some serious underlying health issue, I'm sure that would lead to it not correcting properly. But apparently, you can have constant updates with the LASIK. But yeah, just make a note that you can't have the Smile Pro or that advanced technology at a later date if you opt for something that has a manual incision. That's my understanding, at least. So yeah, overall, everything was sort of chill, and yeah, obviously the bruising in the eyes will hopefully revert back to normal as it's supposed to do. So that's the general gist for prospective laser patients. I feel like I probably forgot loads of important information for people, but yeah, the first 4 hours post operation super painful. It feels like someone's put bleach in your eyes, but after that, it heals up really, really quickly. And so long as you're putting the drops in, yeah, it's all pretty fast. There we go.